Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is Raid Shadow Legends video, and what I wanted to talk about today is gonna be some dupe champions. Yeah, it's kind of a weird topic, I know. It's a little bit odd, for sure, but you know what? We all get so many of these champions, and sometimes you gotta know, are these worth keeping or are they not? And it's one of those subjects that we don't really talk about, because generally you don't need dupes. You don't need duplicates, but there's a few champions where it's advantageous, and so I figured I'd cover those. That way you guys go, oh, well, should I, shouldn't I? Maybe this helps. And more importantly, this gives you guys an opportunity to let me know down in the comments, what are good champions that are what are champions worth having dupes of? What are champions you've gotten dupes of that you think other people should know about? Or did I get any of these wrong? And you're like, you don't need two of those. They're trash. You don't need two of those. So let me know what you guys think. And hopefully together we'll be able to come up with a nice little list for people to get dupes of. I think that'd be good. Anyway, let's jump in and talk about what I think is the most important champion to get two of. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Of course, I'm talking about Maneater, my man, the Maneater, because he makes clan boss teams super, super easy. And with two of them, it's a wrap. I mean, obviously one is really, really good, and there's lots of teams that go with that, but having two is like just a step above. And so when we're talking about epics only, not talking about legendaries today, just talking about epics only, then we're talking Maneaters. Got to be top of the list. Bad Eater teams, double Maneater teams, they make the game super easy. All right, if we're talking about champions that we need dupes of, there's a couple caveats here, right? It's not just about, oh, I can use these champions everywhere, because sometimes it's worth having dupes for specific areas, like the Maneater we just talked about, who's great for clan boss. But the biggest area of this game where having dupes is valuable, actually Hydra, right? Because you have to do the fight 3 times, and sometimes you just want the same champion for each team that you're using. And if that's the case, Ugo probably is at the top of your list of epics to have dupes of, because he's just got an insane kind of kit. Decreased defense, block buffs is an AoE, not to mention he's got other stuff, right? He's got leech, he's got cleanse. The dude's really, really good. And for Hydra, especially, he's really good. Reflex set is insane on him. But that's the thing, is you want two of them. Now, is Ugo good other places? Yeah, actually, really good. Good in Arena, good in Doom Tower stuff. So, like, it's worth having a second one, I think, anyway, because you specifically are going to want one for Hydra, and then it opens up the possibility of building another one for other areas of the game. But definitely, I think, if you're going to build dupes, Ugo probably is on that high list, especially if you're trying for Hydra teams. Another Hydra-specific duplicate has to be Inquisitor Ishmael, as I like to call him, or maybe just accidentally do. Anyway, this guy just hits super hard, but the biggest thing is that passive ability that just deals with the Head of Torment. I mean, it basically just knocks out the Head of Torment. And so it's super valuable to have 2, maybe even 3 of them for your Hydra teams alone. I mean, the dude hits hard, he ignores some defense, he can be really good in other areas of the game. I've seen him used in Arena or, you know, clan boss or dungeons and all sorts of stuff. But pretty much he's a Hydra guy. So having 2 of them can really enable you to get your second Hydra team really rolling. Now, Ugo and Ishmael are pretty specific Hydra champions for specific, you know, teams that you might want to build when you're lacking other champions and options. Champions like Husk, however, just always useful, right? I mean, we're talking about max HP hits. That's valuable. That's just valuable, right? Can't go wrong with that as far as damage. But it also brings a nice little provoke on that A1, which is kind of a nice little bonus skill, especially for Hydra and that Head of Decay. So Husk definitely is tops on that list of wanting to have dupes of, because you could run literally a dupe in every single one of, or a Husk in every single one of your Hydra teams, and nobody's going to look at you cross-eyed. That's probably the way to go. I mean, he's one of the top damage dealers. That's not just a top tier legendary champion in this game. When it comes to epics, you're not going to do better than Husk. And of course, if you like Husk, you're going to love Royal Guard, because again, top tier epic, right? Just like top tier for Hydra. AoE, max HP hit. You can't go wrong with that. But he also brings some other things. Like decreased speed as an AoE ability. That's really, really valuable, because sometimes hard to find in your team depending on who else you're bringing. And decreased defense on that A1. So now, does that mean that he's going to be your primary champion to do either of those things? No, but when you have champions that don't land those on 100% hits, he makes a really good backup, right? I use him a lot with somebody like Chris, who has, a decreased speed on the A1 as an AoE, but it's, like a 30% chance to land it. Royal Guard becomes my backup to that, ensuring that I get decreased speed out a lot more consistently. That's where he can be super valuable, on top of just being a huge max HP damage dealer. So once we go past the Hydra champions, the clan boss champions, now we're looking at champions that are going to be good in multiple areas of the game, right? We're talking arena, we're talking dungeons, we're talking Doom Tower. We're still talking those clan boss teams. And I think this is a perfect example of that. Somebody like Seeker. Now, I'm going to be straight up. I don't have two of him. I like him a lot. I do kind of want a second one, but I don't have a second one. But the reason why I put him on this list is way back in the day, he was a top tier arena champion because of that massive turn meter boost that he had, his passive ability, and he has a provoke on that A1. All those things are really good for arena. Now, is he still that good for arena? Probably not, but he's still top tier for clan boss. And I do think having a second one of him is not a bad idea, because you have one dedicated for your clan boss team, and then you take a second one and you can build them for other areas of the game, whether that is Doom Tower Waves, arena, whatever it happens to be. I think he can still be super useful for you. Probably the last person on this list, honestly, not like, oh, gotta get a second one of him, but I can totally see a reason to have a second one, and I don't think that's a bad thing. This is another champion that maybe you'd want a second one. I can easily see an argument against it, but I'm talking about Rectordrath, and the big reason why, of course, is that she has so much going in her kit that's so good for your team. It makes her useful really everywhere in this game. Now, I've always used her primarily for Hydra because of her Veil. She has a perfect Veil ability, not to mention healing abilities, not to mention revive abilities, and some passive stuff that adds to the healing and your resistance. She's really great for that. But I've also used her in Baumel, and I've used two of them in both areas of those games, right? In Hydra and in Baumel. So I feel like she's super good. This isn't even talking about how great she is in things like arena. Definitely a top tier spot for her in that. So there's a lot of possibilities as far as using Rectordrath and how you'd want to go about building her. So 100% do recommend having at least one, but I would really consider having two of her if you're struggling with any of those different areas. I think Baumel, Hydra, and arena would be the primary spots I'd be looking for. But she's, with that kind of healing and protection, she is really good everywhere. Now, this one might be a little controversial because I don't think most people have more than one of her, but it's really easy to have two of Allure because of her amazing turn meter reduction with her A1 skill. It's just so insane that having a second one makes her doubly insane. And when you start getting into, the higher levels of dungeons and Doom Tower, there's a lot of turn meter reduction going on from the bosses, and so having multiple allures can be really good. This can easily break things like Scarab, where you just keep the turn meter down the full time, or Dark Fae, which is where I use two of her, or even high levels of Fire Knight. You can also get away with just one most of the time, right? So it's not like you need two of her, but I don't think that's a problem having two of her. I think it's actually pretty valuable, and so that's why for me, this is one of those champions I say, yeah, get a dupe of her. This is another one of those champions where it's like, I think it's worth having two, but I'm not even sure where you would use your second one yet. So maybe this one doesn't belong on the list, but I'm talking about a Kemptum. And I think a Kemptum obviously is, top tier for Spider Hard, kind of like the mandatory champion to have for that. Basically what Allure used to be for what Allure is for normal Fire Knight, a Kemptum is for Hard Spider. And so he's really good for that, but he's also really good in other areas, right? He's got AoE Hex, poisons, spreads them, that passive ability that allows the damage to be shared. All of that's really, really good and can be used in multiple areas. So I don't think he's just for this. It's just obviously he's really good for this. But, things like Hydra, other areas of the game, Doom Tower teams, I think a Kempton can be valuable. So having a second one to me doesn't feel bad. Plus, because his kit's so weird, I feel like he's going to be useful in whatever new stuff comes down the road. That's another reason why I figure having two of them, not a bad investment. All right, now we start getting to the fun champions where I'm definitely like, yeah, having two of these is recommended even. And I'm going to start here with the Mytha. We all know how good she is with Clan Boss, like an absolutely insane beast. All those Myth teams are insanely good, right? But on top of that, she's really good in other areas. Like, she's a top tier champion for Hydra, ironically enough. She extends your buff, she heals you, she cleanses a little bit, you can block some damage. really, really good for Hydra, right? Can be really good for a lot of dungeon teams, a lot of Doom Tower teams as well, because even if you take away the block damage ability, her healing is still top tier ability right there. And so she's an extremely good champion. So having multiples of her is, I think, really, really valuable and definitely worth doing. Another champion that's super valuable to have two of would be Bogoth. And the reason why is Bogoth, obviously, it all comes down to his passive ability, where basically when he takes damage, he's healing your entire team, right? Insanely good, insanely good. But the thing is, it's insanely good everywhere you want. I mean, this is not even talking about his decreased attack, his provoke, his leech, which are nice abilities. But like, yeah, you can bring him into Bommel and help your team survive. You can bring him into Hydra, help your team survive. You can bring him into Clan Boss, help your team survive. You can bring him into Arena and help your team survive. He's extremely good for that. And when you have two of them, kind of like a cheat code, because they start healing each other, right? And so it can be really, really valuable. Not to mention building one for Arena is going to be very, very different from building one for Clan Boss or for Hydra, right? Where like speeds become really different. The resistance abilities and accuracy, all that becomes really different. So he's definitely a champion that I would recommend having two of. Not to say that you're going to use them all, right? I actually don't really use any of them anymore, but there was definitely a point where I used two of them, and I used two of them consistently and was really considering building a third one. So he's very, very valuable and can help unlock a lot more of the game for you if you're struggling with different areas of it. And then we have Godseeker and Neri. This, for a while, I was having her be my number one champ, but she's really, really good because she does so much and she can use so many different areas. She has her passive revive ability, active revive ability, the buff extension for your team, and buff duration decrease for the enemy, not to mention the fact that she does tons of healing and hits super hard. Godseeker Neri is a really good champion. So that, and really most of it comes down to actually that passive ability with the, revive. That makes her really good for Sand Devil teams, and I have one dedicated for that. It also makes her really good for Arena, and it makes her amazing for Clan Boss with the buff extension. Great for Hydra, not just with the revive, both the passive and the active, but the healing ability that she has, the buff extension, all of that goes into play over there. And of course, Doom Tower teams, because, sometimes you need a little revive, sometimes you need a little buff extension. She can be extremely, extremely valuable for all of those areas. That's pretty much the entire game, right? So if she's good for the whole game, yeah, having two of them, not a bad idea. Because now you can build them specifically for that area of the game. I have three of them, which is excessive. I agree. But I have three of them because of that, because of the versatility, because of the flexibility there. And so definitely somebody I would say, having two, probably a good idea. And very last on our list is, of course, Geomancer. I mean, it's got to be Geomancer because he's one of the best epics in the game, best damaging epic, I think, in this game. And he's absolutely insane for all areas of this game. If there's a boss, he's amazing, right? Whether we're talking about Hydra, whether we're talking about Clan Boss, whether we're talking about Doom Tower, right? We're talking about dungeons. It's just insane ability, right? He's got that HP burn, and then he's also got that passive ability that just makes the HP burn do a lot of damage for you when you get hit. It's insane. Not to mention he's got a nice AoE on his A1 with decreased accuracy. Makes him a really good choice to use cruelty for. But he's like insanely good. And the thing is that, building him for multiple areas is really good. Whether we're Iron Twins, he can be really nice. Sand Devil, not Sand Devil, but Iron Twins, he can be really nice. He can be really good for a lot of the different dungeons. Excellent for Hydra, obviously top tier for that. But you don't want to build them the same for all those different areas. So this having multiple Geomancers really gives you the flexibility to prioritize how you want to use them and where you want to use them. That's why I'd say getting two of them. This is the one champion where I'm like, yeah, I fully recommend actually building multiples. So there we go. Epic champions that I think are worth having dupes of. Now, does this mean this is the entire list? I don't know. It's my list. But I'm sure you guys have champions that you're like, oh, you should build two of these. Totally worth it. Or yeah, these are some good dupes worth having. Or maybe you're like, some of those champions should not be on that list anymore. And I would love to hear all of that, right? I'm always learning from this game. And a lot of that comes from you guys. So if you guys let me know in the comments down below, champions I missed, champions I should have kept off my list, let me know that down below. I'd love to hear that from you guys. I'd also love to hear how many of you guys actually have dupes. Right? Is that a thing that other people build, or is it just me because I've, way too many champions on my account? Let me know that as well. I definitely would be interested to hear what your thoughts are on just having dupes in general. Because, for those of you wondering, No, you do not need them. You do not have to have dupes of any of these, right? You don't have to. But sometimes it's helpful. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not. So you kind of got to judge that a little bit for yourself. But these are champions that I figured if you're going to build dupes, these are ones that I would say are worth building for anyway. So that's the video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you liked it, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next we meet on the Deadwood Jedi.